Hello once again, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another one of my Richard's Rock Rambles top trios. Top trio of albums of any particular solo artist or band. And today's band is a band that I have a long history with. I reckon it goes back to my teens, school days. That band being Black Sabbath, probably my top two favorite bands of all time. Obviously, numerous changes over the years, lineup changes, different styles. Although they've always been the sort of masters of doom and stoner and that kind of thing, they sort of invented it really, invented heavy metal, if you like. Although they said they were never heavy metal. But anyway, be that as it may, we're going to have a look at the Aussie era. So the classic Black Sabbath. Not to say that the stuff that came after wasn't any good, but this is the classic era, if you like, the 70s. Going all the way up to 1978, which would be the final album that he sang on. So what's it? That's about 8 albums in 10 years. So we're going to have a look at my top 3 from that period. And once again, this will just be studio albums, no live albums. I'm going to do that at a later stage. And please remember, guys, this is just my personal choice. It's not cast in stone. I'd love to see what your guys' top 3 are. Please let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So coming in at number 3, and this is an album which was made under quite a cloud with Black Sabbath. They were going through all sorts of legal issues with lawyers and going to court and all sorts of things. So they were pretty pissed off at the time. You know, they were getting shafted, as bands did back in the day, with money and royalties and what have you. But they came up with an album which for me is just so full of anger, and that's why I really dig it. It's like, you know, that kind of album. Stuff You Guys. Sabotage. Just the right name for it. And there's that rather strange cover of them in really weird outfits, which they weren't supposed to be wearing. They had forgotten the outfits they were going to wear for the photo shoot, so they had to sort of grab what was around. That's Bill Ward in those dodgy see-through tights, which I believe belonged to either his wife or some other woman. There's Tony Iommi sitting down there looking like some sort of drug dealer. There's Geezer Butler with an umbrella for whatever reason. He probably just grabbed that as a prop. And there's old Ozzy in his kimono, as he called himself, a homo in a kimono. Yeah, it was the time. And there's the back shot. So this is a remastered version, really nice version, nice recording. There's not too much to show you inside. There's just the lyrics. And yeah, this album is just full of piss and vinegar. There's some of the original recording stuff in the studio, the box that they used. There's Mr. Iommi in the middle there with Bill Ward at the back with his flowing robes that he wore in those days of the 70s. There's Geezer Butler and there's Ozzy with the tassels. Now, what else can I show you? That's pretty much it for, yeah, and there's the back shot like I showed you. So yeah, this album is full of good stuff. I often reach for this one. My 2 and 3 in the top 3 here might interchange, but for the moment, this is coming in at number 3. So what are the tracks on here? Hole in the Sky. And right at the beginning of that track, you can hear Ozzy shout, "Attack!" I always wondered what he was saying, and then apparently that's what he said in the studio. And they launch into Hole in the Sky with some of Tony Iommi's most brutal riffs you'll find on this album. Excuse me, I just need to have a sip here. So that starts off the album. Brilliant bass work from Geezer Butler, the main songwriter. Bill Ward's on fire on this album. Then it goes into Don't Start Too Late, which is kind of like a little intro piece into my favorite track on here, Symptom of the Universe, which will become a big hit for them. One of Iommi's best riffs. I mean, come on. Symptom of the Universe, just crank that to number 10 and you're done. And Ozzy, I must say, Ozzy's vocals never sounded higher than this. The album prior to the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, I thought, geez, okay, Ozzy's reaching the heights. This one, I don't think he was ever able to do this again. This was a one-off for him, especially today. I mean, I think he can just about make it onto the stage these days. Anyway, then it goes into Megalomania, The Thrill of It All, Super Tsar. That's a weird track. They use that a lot as the intro into their concerts. as when they had the backdrop thing going there. It's an instrumental track done with a choir, sort of singing really eerie stuff. Am I Going Insane, which has that really crazy laughter at the beginning. I believe it's one of their roadies that they recorded and sort of sped up and whatever. I think that's the story. And then the last track is The Writ, with some vicious lyrics from Ozzy. The writ obviously being you go to court to the writ and all the rest of it. So yeah, they were, like I said, they were pissed off for this album. But I think it worked. You want this kind of music to be angry, and they certainly were, and it did pretty well. Not always one of my favorite albums. It took me a few listens to get into this one, but once it got you hooked, certain songs just stick in your head. I mean, Hole in the Sky, and of course, Symptom of the Universe. So there we go. That's my number 3, Sabotage. My number 2, excuse me, I do need to sip some coffee. Talking quite a bit here. The iconic, game-changing debut with that really eerie cover. That girl standing in front of that house there. I mean, if you don't have this in your collection, you are missing out. This must have scared the pants off people when they first heard it back in 1970? I mean, nothing like this had come out before. There were a few heavy sort of albums, but this set the bar at a very high point. And most of the tracks on here are just classic. I mean, towards the end, there's a bit of filler, I guess. Black Sabbath, the title track with that eerie, the rain coming down, the thunder, and then Iommi just saying, hello, this is me. That riff that to this day makes the hair stand up on my arms. The Wizard, with some really cool harmonica work from Ozzy. A really cool harmonica player, in fact. Behind the Wall of Sleep, probably my favorite track on here, which has got that really nice swing to it, where you can hear Bill Ward's sort of jazz drumming background. Excellent track. NIB, which many people thought meant Nativity in Black or whatever. It's actually nib. Bill Ward used to have a beer that sort of looked like a pen's nib, which Tony Iommi used to set fire to for whatever reason. So that's actually the reason of NIB. And just to make it interesting, they put full stops after each letter, NIB. Then you go into Evil Woman, which was one of their first sort of songs that they played together. There's a lot of blues on here as well. They started out as a blues band, obviously ramped up to 10 here. Sleeping Village, which is quite a lengthy track. Different time changes to that one, which was sort of shades of things to come. The Warning, another lengthy track, and then Wicked World. Yeah, you got to have this in your collection. This is where it all started, folks. For metal, for hard rock, for doom, for stoner. You don't have to look further than this. This is also remastered. Another really nice recording. This has been reissued countless times. There are more deluxe issues, but I'm quite happy with what I've got. And there they are, the boys in their prime, very early with those early strange haircuts. And Ozzy used to wear a tap around his neck in those days. Don't ask me why. There they are again with their crosses, which became a thing. And that was the inside sleeve, and they picked up a bit of flack for that upside down cross, but that wasn't part of what they wanted. That was the record company thinking, oh, well, these guys it's all about Satanism, of course, which it wasn't. And so there's the lyrics. And that's about it, folks. That's just the back of the, I'll show you the whole picture there. Classic stuff. So that comes in at number 2. But my number 1 has been my number 1 Black Sabbath, especially the Ozzy era, and probably from all Black Sabbath, for many years. And it probably will stay there. I don't know, I just have a history with this album. I remember back at school, my buddies and I on breakup day, the last day of school, we used to go down to his place and get some of the cheapest wine available, because that's all we could afford. Get horribly trashed, and then this would be definitely one of the albums that went onto the turntable. Obviously, the records back then, there weren't even CDs yet. I'm talking early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And what am I waffling on about? Of course, I'm waffling on about that one, Black Sabbath's Volume 4. There we go. My favorite Black Sabbath. I never get tired of this. And it's because, for me, this was Sabbath changing things slightly. In fact, there was a song called Changes, but that's the one I least enjoy on here. But anyway, I'll get to that. There's even bits of progressive rock on here. There was still the heaviness. Master of Reality, the album before this, was brutally heavy. That almost made my top 3 as well as Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. But this, they were trying different things, and that's all down to Tony Iommi. You know, towards the end of the Aussie era, the other guys would get pissed off with him. But if it wasn't for that man, things would have just, I don't think, would have progressed as much as they did. There's Ozzy at the back. I had the original of this on vinyl. Don't ask me what happened to it over the years. There's Ozzy doing his trademark peace signs. There's a really cool shot of the band doing their thing with that small stage back then. They weren't yet selling out arenas. This was like 1972. They were just starting to really get big. And of course, this was around the time that cocaine became a thing in the band. In fact, many of the guys in the band can't even remember recording this. That's how totally out of it they were. There's Geezer Butler with his see-through bass. How cool is that? And there's Ozzy, much younger Ozzy with hair. And there's Bill Ward smacking the sticks onto the drums. And there he is with his red Gibson SG, Mr. Tony Iommi. Absolute legend, the riff meister himself. There's all the tracks. Right, so the all-important tracks. Let's get on to those. Starts off with probably one of my favorite tracks on the album, Wheels of Confusion. Now, I spoke about prog earlier, progressive rock, and in that track, there's about 3 or 4 different parts. Some really heavy, amazing riffs from Tony Iommi. Then it sort of slows down. Then you'll have a little bit of an acoustic piece, and Ozzy's vocals are great on here as well. Not quite as high as Sabotage, but really pulls it off. And yeah, that is a great starting track. It actually starts off quite weird, almost as if the track was halfway in already. You know, Iommi's guitar just sort of comes out of nowhere, but it all works. So that's Wheels of Confusion, which I think is about 7 minutes long or 8 minutes long. So quite a lengthy track to begin things with. Tomorrow's Dream is the follow-up one, where that starts with the drums from Bill Ward and just a brutal riff from Tony Iommi. That's also one of my favorite tracks on here. Then we get to Changes, which was actually sort of a throwaway thing. Tony Iommi just sat down at the piano one day and started noodling around. He wasn't really a piano player. And Ozzy said, "Oh, that's not too bad. Let me see if I can put some lyrics to that." And eventually that became Changes, a very sort of moody, sad song about lost love and whatever, which became quite a hit. And then many years later, Ozzy would sing it with his daughter, Kelly. Prefer this version, I got to say. Then we get the weird FX, which is actually they were wearing their crosses, and they were in the Tony Iommi was butt naked in the studio for whatever reason, and he was banging it against the strings of his guitar, and he was getting these weird sounds. So they recorded them. That's the story. I don't know how true it is. My favorite track is next, Supernaut. You want to talk about riffs and Sabbath iconic riffs? You don't get better than Supernaut. That to me is heavy metal 101. Starts off with that cymbal, and then it just rips into the leads, into the riff from Tony Iommi with that SG just singing. Unbelievable track. And then halfway through, the drums come in again, and Bill Ward does his jazzy thing, and then back into the riff. Oh, it's magic, absolute magic. Great lyrics as well. Geezer Butler was the main songwriter back in the day. Excellent song lyrics. Snowblind, the song about cocaine. That's the other thing on the inside sleeve of here. They said, we'd like to thank the great Coca-Cola company, because they couldn't put cocaine, obviously. Everybody knew what it was. I mean, these guys were snorting so much that they were snorting half of Colombia back in the day. So that's Snowblind, and that's pretty much about coke, drug song. Then you got Cornucopia. There's some really nice acoustic stuff on here, which comes up with Laguna Sunrise. I think that's the track, which is the acoustic piece from Tony Iommi, which just shows you how versatile he is. St. Vitus Dance, and then another really brutal, heavy riff track to finish off the album, Under the Sun, which towards the end, right at the end, is a repeat riff, which just blows me away. 1972, this came out. Here we are in 2024, and this still blows my mind. That just shows you that's the mark of a really, really good album. That's it, guys. My top trio of Sabbath. Next time around, we're going to be looking at another British band, Deep Purple. Down below, give me a thumbs up, any comments. I'd love to hear what your top 3 Sabbaths are, in particular the Aussie era. Take it easy, and I will catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.